Cuesta.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to University of North America. Our president may come in a few minutes, Jill Martin, and she's been very generous to receive Rosie Orozco, a good friend of us for many years. I met Rosie in Mexico, and she has organized some beautiful events and her church and her ministry, and all the things she has done are just amazing. We did a book presentation of Blank Page. I think it was 2 years, 3 years ago.
Yes.
Rosie, at the very nice hotel in Washington. It was a total success. And Rosie has her heart on very important issues, not only in the United States today, but internationally in Mexico. So today we're going to be presenting this beautiful book called Faith, Love, and Human Trafficking, the story of Karola de la Cuesta. And we're very happy to have you here. And I hope this is not going to be only a presentation, but it's going to be a call to action, and all of us are going to help on this very important endeavor. Welcome to the University of North America.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. Thanks for hosting us. And well, thank you everybody for being here. This is my first book. I'm the co-author of Faith, Love, and Human Trafficking, the story of Karola de la Cuesta. I had the opportunity to talk before to Silvia and some of our allies in the fight for human rights here and all over the world, because that's what makes us friends, is that we care about each other, we care to protect the people that needs us, and that's basically the reason why we wrote this book. Raquel Caspi is the author. She's a fantastic friend and a professional. She has a great heart to protect and to help victims to recover from trauma, from trafficking. And she had a previous book writing a story of a girl that was trafficked in Mexico. And when we got together, I'm gonna talk about my faith a lot, because this is something that had made me strong, that had brought me to where I am right now, which I consider is a huge victory and success, because it's not easy, especially with all the opposition we have when we fight against a matter like human trafficking, which is the second largest criminal business in the world. So we can imagine a lot of people is not happy with our fight. And because of that, for me, faith is so important. And when God put in our hearts as an organization, as Kaleido, as any of the organizations that are fighting human trafficking, that are led by our teacher, Rosie Orozco, as the professor said, well, Raquel appeared and it was an instant match. Me not knowing who she was, and probably she didn't really know who I was, and everything came down like a downloaded, like from the cloud, right? So we started to talk, and it was like fast forward, she totally got what I wanted, and I totally trusted her immediately. So what we wanted to do was accomplished. This book was released on August 18th, 20th. Thank you. On August 20th. And ever since, the opinions we have been receiving are that it's been educational, and it's been a good tool that people want to share with young, like, siblings, or with other people, that it's gonna be used as an awareness tool, right? Because in Mexico, my story is a case related to the music industry, and it's been associated with the entertainment industry more than a huge criminal case. It's something like the PDD case right now. and combined with Epstein and with all the other horrific cases that you can relate more in the States. But after 24 years of us being saved and released from our captors, till today, this story and this case is still open. So that's why it's so dramatic to say it somehow, because you could say, why, if it happened so many years ago, you're still talking about it? I mean, how can you talk about overcoming trauma or overcoming all the damages if you're almost 42 years old and you keep talking about it? Well, it's not like that. We try to make our lives, we try to rebuild our foundations, everything that was broken and taken away from ourselves, from our families, but these criminals keep profiting of our story. So this is the why again. So faith, love, and human trafficking. The love is because without the love of my family, without the love of God, without the love of people like Rosie Orozco, and now some of the YouTubers that are supporting us, and all the people that have changed their opinions about us, without the love of the people, we would remain broken. And that's what happened to a lot of the victims or a lot of these cases that we point at them. Human trafficking is a combination of the most horrible crimes, and we don't know till this day how to protect people, how to um, save people, how to transform their lives if they're part of the 1% that succeed in surviving. And we keep pointing at people, survivors of exploitation, like sex exploitation in forms of prostitution or other forms of exploitation. We don't want them. We mistreat them instead of understanding that they're not the problem. The problem is the people that traffic them, and the people that bought them is the problem. All of us that we have a good face and we look good in front of everybody, but we still paying for exploitation, that is the problem. But we're not going to talk about the problem here. I'm a very passionate person about trafficking. So in the preface is one of the parts, or the only part, where I talk to the reader, and it's again about the story of why after all this time I decided to talk and to write a book, because I have lived a life apart from the media. I never normally don't give interviews to magazines or to gossip shows, because I think it's disrespectful towards the entire situation, not towards me only. And but a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, Karola, this happened to me, that happened to me. I was abused by my uncle, I was abused by my teacher, I was abused by that." And every time I ask them, "Oh, did you go to therapy? Did you make a denounce?" The answer is no. Why? Because we're alone, because we don't want to be alone, because we don't want to be judged, because we don't want to talk about it. And what is the worst of this is that as long as we don't talk about it, as long as we don't share our stories, they keep happening. One abusive father can abuse entire generations as long as nobody stops him. As long as nobody talks about Sergio or Gloria or Antonio and Laura in my book, as long as we don't say anything, they're gonna keep abusing other people. And that's exactly what happened in my case. This the story of what I lived through is big part of the book. The first half, to say it somehow, talks about what happened to me, how I was groomed. At the age of 8 years old, the grooming started from this artist and her producer in a very friendly, obviously, way. They were trying to help us. They were looking at me like a little sister, looking at my family as a family. They looked like everything was so good. They were taking care of me, like checking on my artistic progress. They were so nice. We never saw anything wrong about them. And 5 years after, the big opportunity showed up. I was 13. I already had been through their music academy for spring breaks or something like that, for some training. Everything looked good. So when everything was ready, the trust was all set, like I had a proper age, my parents were going to say yes. They calculated everything in order to show their cards and say this is the opportunity. So I was called to be a soap, to be an art, to have a role in a soap opera in Mexico, which is like the dream of every girl that has artistic aspirations, right? So I convinced my parents. My parents were convinced. They did arrangements. I was super young, so I don't remember many of them. I was just happy and excited. But all this artistic academy, little by little, was transformed into a labor and sexual exploitation artistical academy. you know, we kept doing all the shows, all the music productions, playing instruments, singing as backup singers, production of the shows, and the ultimate purpose was for her, the singer, to prepare us to be abused or sex slaves of her producer. She chose us, she prepared us, she coerced us, and she literally took us from our room to his room and manipulated us in very creative ways. So this is a very short story of something that happened like my entire life. Since I was 4 years old in 1986, there's the first legal complaint in Mexico from the first victim that was the cousin of the singer. Okay? American, yes, American lady. And we were rescued in the year 2000. Okay? So they had this, I mean, and she was the first legal complaint, but not the first victim, I'm sure. But nobody before, I mean, we can only say about the people that decided, we can only talk about the people that decided to talk. And it was a perfect, well organized criminal scheme. And it is a very well organized criminal scheme till today, in whatever forms it is taking now. So I use the story that most of Mexicans know, but maybe not many Americans. I just make it very short for you because now I can talk about it. I use it as an activist to bring awareness in many organizations. We help victims in the shelters. We talk about them, about the case, and it's a very common case. But what we can do is to identify how it works, because it's common that people say, why did your parents let you live? Obviously, that's the grooming. Why did I decide to do something I clearly didn't want to? Because it takes a grooming, a preparation, and we want people to realize how it works, how intense and professionally they can create an entire facade for something that is actually, it has second intentions and very bad intentions, right? It's not like I'm gonna come to you and say, hey, can I exploit you? And you're gonna say, of course, why didn't you ask me before? It's not so simple, right? In the book, we want to talk about it because today is not as complicated as many years ago when I was super young, because they had to go to my house, they had to talk to my parents, they had to pass filters to go to me. Now they only need this. So maybe this is simple, this is old-fashioned, you know, but at least it's something we can relay at from all the ages. I mean, if we're 40, if we're 50, if we're 30, if we're 20, we know those steps. But if I'm 50, it's hard to understand why my granddaughter or daughter girlfriend just kidnapped her. But no, it's not a girlfriend, it's an adult using a cover, right? The criminals evolve, and they have good tools, they have a lot of money, and organized crime is organized, but we're gonna be more organized, okay? So human trafficking is the way other humans use people as a commodity. We were talking at lunch earlier, and they don't see you as things. They see you as assets. You produce money for them. You produce pleasure for them. You produce everything they can get out of you. They will get it, and they think you belong to them. And if you pay for somebody, which is not my case, but if you pay for somebody, let's go simple. If you pay for a slave, you think a slave has to do everything you want because you pay for him. That is the fundamental mistake, right? So human trafficking has many forms, and we talk about how many different ways of exploitation there we can like easily talk about. Like in Mexico, in the law that my friend basically created, I mean, we have the forced marriage that is also happening, and you're passing a law here in the States to prohibit forced marriage. Servants, okay, having servants, having mendicity, okay, and the sexual exploitation of other people, like we know them as pimps, right? We talk about grooming. We talk about the forced labor and sex trafficking. That is how this system where I was operated. They forced us to do everything they needed to be done: accounting, driving, cleaning, gardening, producing, singing, acting, whatever they needed to be done, we did it. Okay?
Being 13 years old.
Being 13 years old, and on top of that, we were tortured, obviously. But torture is a nice way to make other people do whatever you want them to do. So we talk about violence against women because the women and the kids are normally the victims of this crime because of so many reasons that we may have an idea, but basically we have we have a rape culture that creates the program, the idea in our minds that women must be looked this way, that women must provide pleasure or provide this or the other thing for a man. Okay, so that creates the wrong idea in the mind of the people that we need to look this way as a woman or to be sexy or to, I mean, even the compliments sometimes are not like the way they should be, right? So, but in the case of trafficking, 42% of the traffickers are women. I don't know if you all knew that. And I wanted to talk about it because in my case, we didn't have justice the way it should have been done because there was no law when they got them, and there was no law. Period. How can you how can you penalize something if there's no law, right? And the second of it, we think a woman cannot abuse another woman. And that's also part of the discussion we had earlier, because even though in our normal minds it's hard to understand how a woman can abuse you, to begin with, women are traffickers because that's an easier way to establish the bond, okay? To establish a trust, a connection. And if a man comes and say, hey, I have the perfect job opportunity for you, you're gonna make tons of money, it's the job of your dreams, come with me to another country, you're gonna say, thank you, no, I have to pass, right? But if your friend comes and say, I have this friend and he offers the best job, you don't have to do almost nothing, he's super cool, I mean, he's the best guy I ever met, he's almost like my dad, come, I'm gonna introduce you to him, do you wanna make some money? You're gonna say yes. Okay, so that's why human trafficking here in the States, for example, happens in colleges or in the school, in junior high and whatever, because a friend can take you to wherever they want. That's fundamental. And we cannot just trust a woman because it's a woman. We have to understand that if some of the steps of the red flags that we have talked about here are coming from a woman, it doesn't matter. It could be a woman, a man, or a monkey. This is clearly wrong, okay? So let's not follow for grooming. Grooming will offer you everything you ever wanted in a very, very easy to understand way, no? And you're gonna fall for it because of your needs, because of your emotional needs, because of whatever they identify. If you need, one of the forms of getting victims is also the boyfriend. No? It's your boyfriend, is the best man you ever met, is amazing, and suddenly things start to switch into an abusive behavior, and they start to ask you for one favor that it's only one time, because if you don't do it, the grandma and all her puppies are gonna die, and you're like, no, I cannot let that happen. So you fall for it. So if it could be a scholarship, if it could be a job, if it could be an artistic career, it could be everything you needed or wanted. So if it's too good to be true, talk to someone. Talk to as many people as you can before you do it. If you see something weird, something that it's just too good, just talk, because they rely on our silence, okay? Then the gaslighting is something that is just not manipulation. We normally think, let's talk about something simple. My girlfriend has an abusive boyfriend, and you're like, why is she not leaving? Why is she not leaving? We can say codependence, we can say she likes it. In Mexico, we say, oh, she must like it. I mean, seriously, that's your conclusion? So, no, people normally don't like to be abused. And even if they like to be abused, there's something wrong with it, obviously, right? So, in the gaslighting, it's a very weird form of manipulation because they make you feel guilty of what you're doing. And if you want to leave, you're guilty too because you decided you wanted to do it. It's like manipulation over manipulation over manipulation. So they make you, this is super common, they make you write letters, they make you say statements in front of people, they make you agree with what they're doing. So whenever you want to change things, they say, but you said you wanted, and you're like, right, I said I wanted to do it. But you don't think at that moment that the coercion, the manipulation, and all the system basically force you to say, I want to do it. In my case, even if I begged for these people to abuse me, it's a crime because I was a minor. But if you're over 18 or over 21 and still you say something under coercion and they make you believe that because you said so, you're the one that caused their action, then you don't want to denounce too, because you're going to go to the police and say, I was abused, but I said that I wanted to be abused. So we're not prepared for a gaslighting as victims. We're not prepared for a gaslighting as society. We're not prepared for gaslighting as law enforcement. But gaslighting is all over human trafficking and most of the abusive systems. So we really need to understand that, not to blame somebody like, you're gaslighting me. You're gaslighting me. That's not the whole point. The whole point is to understand the lie behind the lie behind the lie behind the lie. And even if you said whatever you had to say because of the reasons you said it, you have to talk to somebody, if possible, and somebody's gonna say, it doesn't matter if you agreed to do it, you're not well, please get out of there, how can I help you? That is the objective of the book. That is the objective of understanding that, because probably the victim being held and captive is not gonna read my book, but maybe we can read the book and understand that somebody is under that system, and that she's not living or he's not living because he likes it. It's because there's a system to trap them physically or emotionally or economically or all of them at the same time. So then it comes to the time when we were rescued, and till today many people say, I had some opinion on Amazon about my book, said, oh, this is too fictional. It's impossible that she had the opportunity to live and she didn't live. I mean, who's gonna believe that? And you're like, okay, they had my passport, they had my family, I was under all the threats you can imagine, I was coerced, I had all this gaslighting. You're like, if I go, they're gonna kill everybody. But we have to move to the next level of awareness and understand that even if I was so dumb to have the opportunity to live and not live, I deserve a second chance. And we all do. So we have to be compassionate and say, I don't know the reason why you fall into this, or your parents made you fall into this, or your dog didn't protect you and bark enough. Whatever blame we want to put on whoever you want, we can all give a hand and help somebody get out of there. So that is something super important, and that's what we have to do, open eyes. But it's not exactly what happened to us. I was trafficked through 4 countries, passing through immigration and airports with stranger people that don't look my age or any, like, of my family or anything to do with me, and nobody said anything. Obviously, people people had the opportunity to help me. I even tried to escape, jump from one building to the other, landed in the apartment of a police officer couples. The police came to see me. I was 16-year-old, all skinny, bruised, obviously in panic, and they sent me back to my captors. So that was in the year 1999, and obviously we were not prepared. But my question is, are we prepared now? What would you do if you saw someone in trouble? And that's our emergency number. We have to be prepared to know what to do if we see something like that. It's like, if we see fire, we call 911. If we have an earthquake, you run under the desk. If we see somebody in danger or trafficked or in this situation, what do I have to do? What would I do? What would work in my case? So here in the book, we also have some resources, phone numbers, websites, everything we can provide, like, for the country. So we actually help you to be prepared in the emergency case that you see the opportunity to help someone. If you see the opportunity to actually do something and change the life of a human, not for bad but for good. Okay. In the year 2000, when we were rescued, a whole different path started, because now we were physically free, but a lot of different problems came to our lives, and that's how my personal path obviously started. I didn't have time to think about my future when I was captive, but after I was free, I had to recover. My family was broken. All the entire society was judging us, pointing at us. The law was not doing their job. Everything looked super bad, but we were happily free and with our family and healthy, and that was a big gift for us. And for me, um, I had a baby. I had a baby that's the son of my trafficker. So I needed to protect my baby. I moved to a place like in the middle of nowhere. That is one of your favorite places to go on vacation. Right? It's a good place to escape, right? But imagine 22 years ago, it was almost virgin. It was like, still today, I'm in the middle of the jungle. Imagine 22 years ago. So it was a nice, safe environment for me. And it gave me the opportunity to hide from my traffickers that are obviously very powerful and influential in my country. I had the opportunity to be in a place where nobody knew me, nobody talked to me about or thought about who they thought I was, because you feel it, and they're like, they're judging you just because that's what we thought we had to do, judge other people, right? So right now, well, after all these years, I started to first I was a bit mad at God. I was like the Christian community was close to us all the ever since we were rescued till today, obviously. And first they were just there, but at some point you hear like, oh, God loves you and things like that, and you're like, okay, I get it, but why, if you love me, you let good people live through horrible situations? Because trust me, it's not because of my family, but my parents never had one bad fight in their life, never a problem with a neighbor, never stole or an accusation of stealing a pen at work, nothing. I mean, just regular people living a peaceful lives. And we don't do bad things to other people. Like, it's at some point it's unfair, right? You say it's really unfair. And then I was angry, I was hurt, I was scared. And not because I lived through captivity and all the horrible things you can imagine, because you cannot even imagine how bad it was. Um, it's My life was easy after that. No, it's not like the after the darkness, the light comes. It was more darkness, just in a different situation, right? So um, I prayed. I said, I have my baby. I have to get back on my feet. This was not my fault. Thank God. I thought at some point this was not my fault, because at some other point you think it's your fault because you made your parents suffer, because you didn't do the right thing, because you didn't escape, as the people on Amazon said. I had opportunities to escape and I didn't. And you punish yourself, right? So after I started to pray and I said, please, God, I don't know the reasons, but if you put me through this, you're gonna take me out of this, because I don't know how. I was a teenager. I had my education broken. I had a baby in my arms. My family was broken, and I was trying to protect them and trying not to make them suffer more. So I wanted to be perfect so they stop suffer for me, right? And I wanted to be perfect so I don't make my son suffer. And I wanted to be perfect so I can stop suffering. So basically, God said, okay, let's do it. And he started to guide me through many ways of recovery. I started to talk about everybody. I had a good bond and opportunity and trust. I talked about what I was living, about the most horrible scenarios. Like sometimes I feel bad for the people that had been listening to to me for all these years, because I had to say horrible things. I People was nice when I cried in the cinema. No, for me, an horror movie is more like Hannibal Lecter, not The Exorcist. Um, Basically, people didn't know how to react, but they were there. No, they listened. They didn't give an opinion. They didn't judge me. They just listened. And I talked and talked, tried to go to therapy, tried to do everything in my power. I meditated. I don't know. I went vegetarian. I did everything to to try to clean myself. And basically, the thing that really, really was all the way, but in layers, no? Like Shrek says about the onion, it comes with layers, and I started to remove layers and layers, and maybe I still do. And like one of the layers that I have been seeing like the victory about is like in my femininity, is that a word? Yes. Womanhood. Yes. I'm like, I don't think that's a word, because I had to be super protective. I had to be super strong. I didn't trust men, so I didn't have a good like relationship, because obviously I was like, yeah, I trust you, but only like this. And I'm superwoman, and I overcame everything I overcame. And then you realize your heart is hard as a stone, and you're not letting things, or the plan of God for your life is not gonna work, because you're not letting it, because I was trusting my power and not my creator's power. So obviously it's not easy to understand that you have to release the control over the thing that caused you all the pain. Right? So you trusted a man, and now you have to trust a man again. It's like, can you ask me for something different? And God said, no, this is the next move. And I'm like, okay, show me how to do it. And this has been my entire life, right? It's like little by little rebuilding a life. And in the way, I met Rosie, and Rosie explained what was, well, in her way. She took me first to an event here in Washington, the summit for anti-trafficking summit in the Capitol, and I cried the entire thing. I was like, ah! So I guess Rosie was super scared, and she sent me back to therapy. She was like, oh my god. But when she takes a course, she is not dropping it. Even if I ask her to drop it, even if I warned her and said, don't go with me because I have bad enemies and they're not easy to deal with, and she's like, don't worry, and look, I warned you. Anyways, the thing is that when I learned about human trafficking, I understood that I was trafficked. And when I understood that I was trafficked, I was like, this is so simple to understand. Why don't everybody know about this? And once you know about this, and once you start putting like everything together, you realize traffickers are stupid. They're not creators, they're copy. They copy. It's like we create things, they just try to copy, right? So once you understand some of these steps, it's a lot easier to see that they operate in a very similar way in most of the cases. And they don't, and we cannot keep believing their lies. And we cannot keep acting based on their tendencies, because one of their tendencies is like, oh, let's all do OnlyFans, right? That's a fantastic tendency, and we make jokes about OnlyFans, and we do OnlyFans, and people is like, oh, I'm poor, let's do OnlyFans, and you're sure. That's the tendency of the traffickers. That's an exploitation tendency. So I'm sorry, I don't want to be a party pooper, but either you're for life or you're their slave in one way or another. Either you fight for freedom or you support slavery. There's no in between. There's no middle point. It doesn't work like that. If we try to make sure every day that we don't buy groceries, clothes, or anything from an exploitation company, like that uses exploitation in the production chain, on the cells, if we don't go to a strip club because it's fun, if we don't support anything that is abusive because that's the culture, we're doing right. Because at some point we may not know, but if we follow some of the steps and we make it clear in our minds, if we're supporting them or supporting life, it's super easy. It's super easy to identify. So, but you have to learn about human trafficking, and you have to learn about exploitation, and you have to learn about human rights in order to know what of what we're doing is against that. And this is not about the religion, it's not about anything. It's about you want to support freedom and life, or you want to support. But if you want to be on the other side, you're gonna be a slave too. Period. Because my traffickers are slaves of who I don't know, but everybody's a slave of everybody in the other way. There's no victory. It's only all bad, wrong way. But we're free to do whatever we want, right? Anyways, after all that, just to close, I don't know how long have I been talking, but that's how I started to work with some of the organizations that Rosie founded and created. I've been able to talk in many auditoriums, in many important places. God has been bringing me to very, very amazing places and knowing amazing people and putting me in amazing situations that I don't know how they have been happening, but I think it's again faith. And yes, and I thank God that at this point of my life, we can use whatever I live to help others, to bring awareness, to have the conversation on the table, to be able to talk to the girls that come to the shelters and say, don't worry, you'll be okay. I lived exactly what you lived, and there's a solution for what you've been through, and to see the miracle of life working week after week. And that is probably I'm gonna cry again. Probably the most amazing gift of and reward of everything I had to be true is to be able to see girls that have been rescued, and that from 1 month to the next one their smiles are back in their faces. And that is something you cannot compare, like, to anything. It's just a bliss in your heart, and like holiness. It's so perfect. So yes, it's not over. We have open cases in California. Some of the victims, there is no justice. There, like justice as we know on Earth, there's no, there's nothing on Earth that looks like things are right. But the transformation that we can do inside and the transformation that we can see in other people's life, it's like the best prize and reward we can achieve for me in life. And I have that today. So uh, well, that's the book about. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I like to ask a couple
Okay.
questions. Well, my name is Karola. I'm from Escandala en Línea. First of all, I want to say congratulations, Karola. And I don't know if you are able to feel the love from all the people, like on my channel. There's tons of people that love you that actually are watching right now, and I'm reading some of their comments. They're just saying, how proud they are of you. And you just mentioned that when you were freed physically, you didn't feel free. Even though you were physically free, you still didn't feel free because there were so many things that were still holding you back. Some of those things were the way society treated you, the way the law treated you, the way the media treated you. Are you able to see and feel a difference now, 20 some years later, that you're now speaking up and that now you're publishing a book? Do you feel the love that people have for you, or are you still feeling that, because there's always going to be haters, like you said recently? Are you still feeling more of that?
Yes, yes. I the things are totally different, totally different than. I mean, there's no point of comparison. And thanks to you again, I like what you're doing. I was trying to find one part because 1 year ago the book was already uh, written. We were just reviewing details, and basically I had this like this sensation, or however people can understand it, like I felt from God that He said that things were gonna be different now. That there was a season coming when were gonna be different. I was actually in Japan. I had a dream come true to visit Japan, and I was in my room and I started to feel this word to me that things were gonna change. And for all the years that nobody understood me, and I had to understand that they wouldn't understand because they couldn't, no, and not take it personally. I had to understand where I was, and the fact that people was not able to understand, like physically able. And there was a time coming where I was gonna be understood, and I didn't have to be working so hard to like to make myself be like believed, and I was like, oh, that's a nice word. Like, right, sure, why not? Thank you, God. It's so nice that you said so. And nothing. My life moved on. And 1 month after, I was checking something on YouTube, and I saw somebody saying, and a former fan club president of the singer, and he said, I want to publicly apologize to all the victims of this case because I was one of the people that was making lies. I mean, I was instructed by these traffickers to make lies about you, to hunt you, to talk about you, to go to your house, to basically harass you in every way, shape, or form possible. And I'm sorry, I was wrong. I publicly apologize to you. And I was like, I called Rosie, like, do you think that is possible? How can this happen? and I began to understand what was like being understood.
Oh, wow.
So now things are completely different, and I'm like, I always remember that word, and say thank you to everybody that's having the nice heart to support us, to take the time to talk to us, to send us a message, to buy the book. Please buy the book. The Spanish version is coming, so please buy it when it's out. And yes, I mean, after an entire life of saying, I don't care, I know my truth, and I know who I am, and I know God's with me. Now I'm like, oh, thank you. I do care that you love me. I do care because now that I have it, I care. Like, yes.
Does anybody else want to ask, or can I keep going?
No, keep going,
Yeah, I just
Karola.
wanted to ask because you just mentioned that you moved to the middle of nowhere because all of this, and we know there's been a lot of victims in this case. We don't know the exact number actually because there's been so many of them that are quiet now. Even to this day, they haven't spoken up. Was there a specific event in your life? Because you've been one of the ones that has been really quiet for this past 25 years. You haven't really, like you said, given interviews or really wanted to talk to the media or anybody. Was there a specific event that made you want to speak up now? Because we know that the singer in this story, Gloria Trevi, she recently made a bio series about her life, and it was very re-victimizing to you guys. It was horrible, especially towards you. Like she portrayed you in a terrible way, like the most evil woman in
Yes.
this world. Was there, did that have something to do with the fact that you?
Yes, it had something to do not with the fact that I am talking or anything. I was already working with Rosie, like in a very small way. Obviously, my participation has been growing accordingly to my knowledge and experience. But I started to do things like as an activist way before that. But yes, one of our biggest concerns was the TV show, because after books, after interviews, after movies talking about us, showing our faces, pictures of me as a minor, of my son, and telling every kind of horrible lie about us. Um, and the fact that you start the TV and you open a platform, and you see her movie or her show where you know they're gonna keep abusing you and using your name and profiting from it, and making everybody believe that you're basically the worst kind of person ever, and then you're the actual victim, is like, this cannot be true, and it's like a living hell. It's a living hell. That's, we don't complain, we don't cry enough, but it's a living hell. So yes, we wanted to stop it. We did everything we could. Well, not much, obviously, because as you know, uh, things are not changing in Mexico. But thanks to that, we became stronger. We became to like united. All some of other victims and us. We started to talk. My friend Rosie had a lot to do with it. Sorry, oops. and yes, it gave us the strength. I mean, her one more time abuse and revictimization and wanting to do whatever twisted thing she wants to do made us, like, especially for me, made me go public and just say, if you just want to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it too. I still don't do interviews in the media and things like that normally, because I really think this is a criminal case. This should be um, like this should be on the legal atmosphere, in the legal and like politic and news media, not in the tabloids and like show business. So I think it's a disrespect that we consider that, and I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everybody, and a big case of study for everybody that want to learn and improve as a society, as law, as human rights, as politics, as TV industry, music industry. I mean, everywhere you want to look, there's an opportunity out of this case to grow. But show business is not the way it should be treated.
You say like you don't really like giving interviews, but like we know mainstream media isn't really covering what's happening with the case now, 25 years later, because when it first started, it was like a big scandal. Like everybody was talking about it, everybody was like really wanted to get an interview from you guys and from the abusers. Now we don't see that. Like we can see it now. There isn't anybody from mainstream media covering these events. Have you ever been approached by anybody like from the mainstream media now that your book has been published, wanting to?
No,
Nobody has
no,
approached you. Nothing like that's
no, no,
happened.
no.
And something that they were asking, like, if the opportunity came to you, like making this like a TV show or a bio series or a documentary, would you be okay with that?
Yes, yes, yes. I would be okay with like more exposure towards the case. And obviously, I mean, as you know, in my book, I really don't mention anybody's names, even if it's my sister or my friend or my trafficker, because me personally, I'm not going to expose anybody like innocent, and the people that is not innocent. I mean, anyways, I'm not gonna do to them what they did to me, because then what's the point, right? So if I was approached individually, I would have to consider, because this is not my story, it's a collective story, and I would have to, I think it would have to be a collective thing. But I don't know, we're open.
And just one last question, because I don't want to keep everybody here for hours and hours. We could talk for hours because there's so many questions about these things. In the last few weeks, some of the victims have been talking and have been saying that one of their aggressors, in this case the singer, has been trying to contact them in the last few years, trying to like clean up her image in front of the news and the media. Have you ever had any experience like that? Has she ever tried to reach out to you,
No,
contact
because
you?
I'm super bad. She knows I'm not gonna do it.
You're never gonna allow it.
She can go to better people than me, right? I mean, why to go the hard way? No, I thank God I don't have any contact with her, because yeah, that's good for me.
Okay. Something that your sister Carla has said too, that even if you can forgive somebody, that doesn't mean that you're not going to pursue justice. In that aspect of speaking about forgiveness, could you say that you have forgiven your aggressors? Speaking a little bit about faith, and how it talks about.
It's a tricky question, because I think I have forgiveness, a lot of forgiveness, like supernatural forgiveness, beyond my comprehension. But the thing is that sometimes it's like, if I kick you and you forgive me, and then I kick you again, and then you forgive me again, and then I kick you again, and then you forgive me again, and at some point it's like, yes, I forgive you, but I don't know, your behavior annoys me and disturbs my peace. Yes, I forgive you, but
It's an
can you
ongoing thing.
stop? I mean, what's the point of forgiveness? I mean, you can forgive limited times, but I mean, that's a personal decision. But forgiveness should be like a cycle, right? Like, should be, I ask for your forgiveness and I forgive you, and then it's repaired, like real forgiveness. But if you forgive, it's just an act of faith again, because it's like, I forgive you no matter what, because anyways, to be honest, I'm thankful. To be honest, I'm thankful that she's so annoying and she keeps fighting against us, because that made us strong. And thanks to that, I have a book. If she would have lived her life and I would have lived my life and everybody moved to their own business, I would be a normal person. But now I'm here. I have amazing friends. right? I have amazing opportunities. I have an amazing book. You're here in my book presentation out of nowhere, and as a big surprise, I'm in this amazing venue, University of North America. I mean, friends, churches all over. Why would I be mad? I'm thankful. It's painful, yes. It's not a good thing. It's a crime, and I'm gonna fight for justice. Yes, I'm gonna. And if I don't talk about it, if I don't do something, how can I ask somebody to do something? Obviously, I'm doing something. We have to denounce. We have to talk about it. We have to fight for justice and fight for freedom. And we shouldn't have to fight. It should be natural, but we're fighting because there's no other alternative, but it doesn't mean that I have to forgive her or not. It's I don't have any personal problem with her at all, like at all. Personal, like nothing.
Okay. One of my followers wants to know if what is your take on the responsibility the entertainment industry may have in this particular case?
Well, with a big responsibility. That's another episode. But yeah, I mean,
They're a big part of the problem.
it's a big part, but we're all a big part of the problem, Caroline. I mean, let's be honest. If we don't stop consuming a TV show that has violence against women or violence against life, how can I say the TV industry is the problem if I'm watching it? How can you say that woman is the problem if everybody watches their show and goes to her concert? So who is the problem? The music industry, the singer, or the people that consumes from a trafficker? Who is the problem? You tell me.
Yeah, definitely, it's society. It's all about. We all have a
As
portion.
in the anti-trafficking business, we say, as long as they're a client, there's a business. The day we don't buy people, we don't buy products obtained from pain and suffering of others, that day is the problem is fixed. We are the consumers. You don't want to see it change, and they're gonna go broke. But it all starts with us.
Okay. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
One more time, I just want to express, the love that my followers have for you and for all of the other girls, your sisters,
Thank
and
you.
all of that. So, thank you for having me here and
Thank
for
you.
answering my questions.
I wanna say a special thanks to my fiance that is watching your show. Kisses to my fiance Carlos. I love you, baby. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
Do you have copies of your book here?
I have like one or two. I have a couple, yes, because I have to refill my stock and I don't even know where they are.
Isn't it better for them to buy them on Amazon so it builds up your?
Yeah, I mean,
She was yesterday with hundreds of thousands of women yesterday in the Washington Mall in an event that is called A Million Women.
a million
So,
women.
we were there.
Oh, gracias por venir.
It's been very
Hi.
successful.
How elegant. Yeah, we sold the most of